Hello and welcome to this short video on employee data reporting with inside Sage People. This video is for general guidance only, and if you require or need any legal advice for your compliance towards regulations such as GDPR, we would always recommend that you carry out your own investigations and seek the advice from legal representatives. Within this video, we will be discussing a certain type of report to help you have a 1 or 2 page summary for one employee. That does allow you to quickly and efficiently provide any information that may be requested from an employee, current or in the past. In terms of the examples that I can give you, we'll be looking at the 2 main records within inside Sage People, and that is the team member and the employment records. So as you can see on the data table, you have the team member, and there then are a set of objects that are relevant and related directly to the team member. And then you've also got the employment record, which then holds or has another set of related objects linked to them. What I'm going to show you can be replicated for candidates if you're a Recruit user. So you can look at candidates with vacancies, applications, assessments, and CVs and things like that. But for this example, I will show you some quick examples for team member and employment records. So let's go straight into the system, and I can actually show you how we can do that within the reporting tab. So first of all, let's start off with looking at a team member record. Like I said, there are lots of objects, and we can see all of the related objects up here at the top of this record. So things such as job descriptions, objectives, recognition, all of this can be brought into a report. The reporting that we will be using is the standard Salesforce.com reporting tools. So if I go ahead and I know what I actually want to have in my report, so I can go ahead and start building that report. So if I click into reports, the first thing I'm going to do is click on new report. And what I want to do is actually find the team member object. So I scroll down and I can see the team members just on its own, just team members, and click on create. Now, if you've renamed team members to, let's say, employees, then it would be employees that you would be looking for in that report list. So as always, when I'm creating a report, I would change the show option to be all team members. As it happens, this is just going to be for one team member, but I still need to make sure that I do change that to all team members. The person that we're going to concentrate on is the person that we were just looking at. So let me just put in a filter on the team member name straight away for John Sheridan. Now I can either drag this column up to add the filter, or if it was a slightly different field, I could just type in name and we've got the information there. So I can just drag that field across, type in John Sheridan and click OK. So now we've got John's details. What I actually want to do is change the format of this report. So you can see here at the moment that it is a tabular format report. If I click on this drop down here, the one that I want is a joined report. So a joined report is a great way of bringing in reports or report types alongside the main object that you want. The limitation here is that you can have up to 5 blocks of reports in one report. So if you need to report on more than 5 objects, and as we saw earlier, there are multiple objects in my example, I would actually need to do, let's say, 2 or 3 different reports with different blocks of information for this one employee. That is a restriction of Salesforce.com's joined report formats, but this will actually give us a great start to be able to give that information to an employee. I think also we need to bear in mind what your data retention policy will be, because if on termination of employee there are certain sets of data that you can delete, then obviously we wouldn't be providing a report on those. So, such as when my employee is terminated, I do not need to keep their emergency contacts and their dependents, therefore I could have already deleted those records, therefore I wouldn't be building a report on those. So we've got the team members, which is great. I can now, if I wanted to, I could start to bring in various bits of information just by dragging the field from the left, and you'll see that birth date has now got a green tick, which means I can drop that onto this report. And I can come down and just start to bring in some other information and so on. So let's just pick out something else. Let's go for home address country, UK, and we could also do home phone if there's anything in there. There we go. Like I said, you can continue and add as much information. So whatever fields that you are using on the team member, you'd need to actually add those to this report. But for this example, I will stop with that one. So that's one set of information. That's all about the team member. Now what I want to do is actually bring in, let's say, the employment records. How many employment records has this team member had since they've been working at my company? So in order to do that, I can click on Add Report Type at the top, and now I can just start to look for employment. And again, I just want employment history on its own with no with condition. Okay, if I just drag this down here, you can start to see that I've got block 1. So this says team members block 1, and now we've got employment history block 2. So again, I would need to change this from my employment history to all employment history. And I'd still want to add another filter. So for each of the blocks, we need to add the same filter where the team member name is John Sheridan. So I'm going to do it slightly differently. On here where it says add next to block 2, click on the drop down, click on the field filter, and then I can come into here. I could just start typing in team member, make sure that says equals, and then just type in John Sheridan. Click OK. And now I can just see 2 employment records for John Sheridan. If I come over to this left hand side where I can see all of my fields, if I just extend this folder, I can now see all of the fields that I have on my employment records. So let's start off by putting in the start date. I could then just scroll up and just find the end date. And again, it will depend what fields you're actually using within your own system. I could also, let's add, see if there's anything under job. Okay, nothing under job, I will just remove that one. And if I wanted to, I could also put in the salary band, but we're going to add that later on anyway. Let's go for the work location. And let's also have shift pattern if there are any shift patterns. And we could also go for a payroll number. Okay, so now we've got the payroll number, we've got the employment record numbers and IDs. The one thing I haven't got is a title. But like I said, you could go through and actually add whatever else, what other information you're using. So I can see that they're both on a salary basis. And let's put in a cost code, which are probably exactly the same. Okay. So for now, I'm just going to remove shift pattern and work location because there isn't anything for this. However, if this was a standard report, you'd actually want to save it with all of the fields, because even though John Sheridan hasn't got a value in some of these fields, other employees may do. So you always want to make sure that you've got that consistency and that you use the same fields in all of your reports. It will just make the process a lot easier going forward. So there's block 2. What I can now do is come into the add report type, and again we need to find something else that's related to the team member. So I'm actually going to go for recognition. So let's see what recognition John has got. So again, in here, find just the recognition report type. Click OK. So I can see that John has got lots of recognition. However, it probably isn't John's, because what we need to do again is change the block 3 options. So move it to all recognition, then find the team member field on the recognition. Type in John's name, click OK, and there we have the one piece of recognition that he's got. And as you've probably guessed, we can now go in there and start adding in those pieces of information. And let's also put in there the reason. And let's also have a created date. Okay, so now we've got 3 blocks of information, so we've still got room to actually add in 2 more. So let's go ahead and just add another report type. And for this one, I will put in John's education. Now, as it happens, there isn't actually any report types for education. So in a moment, I'll show you how you can go and make that happen. And if I type in dependents, again, there's no report types around dependents. So again, I can show you that. Let's go for emergency contacts. So team members with emergency contacts. This is the only report type, so it's the only one that I can choose. Click OK. So I can remove the team member name. And let's go ahead and just update block 4 over here. So I want all team members. And again, I want that field filter on the team member equaling John Sheridan. And just click OK. So now I've got the emergency contact name. If I wanted to, I could go ahead and let's just add in the phone number. So we can see that it's Janet, and there's her telephone number. It'd also be good to know exactly who she is. Okay. But again, on your data retention policy, you could decide that on termination, that actually you would go ahead and delete all the emergency contacts because they are no longer needed. Okay, so let's go and add one more report type. And for this one, I'm actually going to go ahead and look at John's training records. So here's training. Click OK. Again, the first thing that we need to do is just update that final block. Now, obviously for this one, I've had to go in there and actually add the filters in. But once you've done this once and you've saved it, then at least you know that you've only got to come in and just update each of these with the next person's name, because we will save this as a template. So there's John's 3 training records. And you know, if I wanted to, I could drag across this whole folder and drop that into the report. But by doing that, I'd actually end up with a lot more information than what I would actually need. So I will just do it one by one. So there's no description. We could do an approved date. What I really want to see is the training name. Let's just see if we've, there we go. So there's my training name, there's my approved date, and say as it happens for this one, there is no description. If I just look at the top of this report, we can see the add report type is not there because I've hit that 5 object block. So let me just go ahead and run this report. Now you'll notice that there isn't an export button that you may have seen with other report types, and that is because it is a joined report. However, what we do have is the printable view. So if I just scroll along, so we can see recognition, we can see the emergency contacts, and we can see the training, and obviously John's main team member information as well. So if I just hit the printable view, now bearing in mind that you are then downloading this information onto a personal laptop, so you will need to make sure that you delete the download once you've finished with it. If I open up that Excel document, I'm just waiting for that to open. Okay, so just while I'm waiting for that to open, we saw when I was going through that example that there were a few objects like dependents and not recognition. Let's stick with dependents. I couldn't actually report on dependents. Now, each object within Sage People needs permission or needs to be updated to actually allow reporting. So just while I'm waiting for that Excel document to open up on my other screen, let me just go ahead and show you what I can do to enable reporting for certain objects. So I'm just going to open up the Salesforce.com setup menu. And over here, I'm going to look for objects. So one quick way would just be to type in objects. Click on Create Objects. And now find the object that you want to allow reporting for. So here's dependent. And I can see over here on the right hand side that Enable Reports is not actually checked. So I could go in, click on Edit, click on the Allow Reports checkbox, and click on Save. In the background, what that will do is just go ahead and create a standard report type for me. So that would then be available. And if I was to go back, and if I just go back and customize this, what I could do is remove my training block just by clicking on the drop down and click on Remove Block. I could then click on Add Report Type, type in dependents, and here we have team members with dependents. Click OK, and I can now start to do exactly the same of just updating that last block like we did earlier, just to make sure that we have only the necessary information. Let's just go ahead and add a filter. Just put in John's name. And now we should see, we should now see, if I just drag that up, I can now see John's dependents within inside the system. Okay, again, let's just run that report. So again, if I wanted to, I could do a printable view. I'm just going to go ahead and just save this as team member with employment, with recognition, with dependents, and I can now just save that. So now if I wanted to, so that's my first request. It could be that I've also been given, I get another request in for somebody else. So I would just need to open up this template, click on Customize, and I could go ahead and just change John's name in each of these filters and just put in the next person's name. So let me give you another example. So one that I've already pre-built. I have one here which is looking at team members with salary records, with absence records, development needs and benefits. So if I just go ahead and open that one for you. So again, team member, each of the salary history increases that they've had while they've been working here. We can see their absences. We can see their benefits. And we can also see what development needs were highlighted by their manager. Now again, if I had actually extracted that into Excel, just pull that in to the view for you. So when I extract that into Excel, it gives me all of the filters that I've added, so I can check that it's definitely Vince Wilson that's been included. And then it's in a nice neat Excel format, so I can see the age, I can see the country. All the fields that I actually added to my report are contained within this one report, so I can then give that to my employee. So like I said, depending on the information that you need to retain and the information that you need to report on, you would generally create the various joined report templates and then just extract those so you can then give those to your employee. I hope you found that useful. Please feel free to look at the other videos that we've been releasing recently in terms of data management with Inside Sage People. Thank you.